Hello and welcome back to yet another live episode of Green and White Podcast brought to you by Argyle Life. The King has returned, but enough about me finally hosting another podcast. Argyle ventured up to the Memorial Stadium on Remembrance Day, their fifth away day in a row, and managed to collect their sixth defeat on the bounce. After Luca Ashby-Hammond managed to do his best Luca Ashby-Hammond impression, failing to catch a routine ball into the 6-yard box and spilling it for Camille Conte to have the easiest tap-in of his life. So, to discuss tonight, I've assembled my finest group of yobs to talk us through last night's trip to the Mem and Derek Adams' return to Home Park. Before we get into it, obviously remember to like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff and get your thoughts, comments and questions in too. Joining me tonight, the roughneck, Graham Clark. How's things?
Thank you. Next question.
I've got John Alsop down here, but he's not here, so maybe not John. The hooligan that is Adam Price. How's things?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm feeling as hooliganish as ever, if that suits.
Good. The thuggish Finley Allen.
All right, yeah. Not great, but we carry on.
And the one with the big yob, Sound Down.
Good evening.
Pretty happy with that one. Go on then, Sam. Give us you were stupid enough to go to the Memorial Stadium last night. You took a cracking photo for the Full-Time Thoughts tweet.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Give us a post-match run through.
Yeah, I'll try and make this relatively quick because there is obviously far bigger news to talk about. But whilst we're here, we should probably at least somewhat talk about the game. Obviously, the game completely had the sting taken out of it by what happened 90 seconds into the game. They lined up with yet another change of formation from going back to 3-4-3 to 4 at the back for a couple of games, but then back to 3-4-3 again, or at least we were for 80 seconds until Cornell Suits saw a red card, and then we reverted to a 4-4-1 formation. I think the red card was not that it really matters much at all, but I think the red card was a bit of a joke. Suits is being fouled before he fouls. It doesn't help matters that Alex Mitchell's kind of, hovering around, waiting for the ball to fall, completely misjudges it, and that then gets into that position. Could have been avoided if Mitchell had judged the flight of the ball a bit better, but I think he'll know that. After that point, it's 11v10. And despite the fact that they're a league below us and they're not a particularly great team, even in that league, when you're on the road 11v10, that's always going to put you at a bit of a disadvantage. And honestly, I think it was quite an even game. I don't think we really deserved, certainly not until the dying minutes. I don't think we deserved to lose the game, but we didn't do enough to win it either. Probably neither team had many clear-cut chances at all, again, apart from the thing I'm going to come to. I mean, maybe if anything, Rovers slightly edged it in terms of sheer quantity of chances. They had a lot of sort of pot shots at the edge of the box, and they had one kind of half-decent header from a corner. Rovers slightly edged it in terms of quantity of chances. I think Argyle slightly edged it in terms of quality of chances. Sorinola and Tolai both had decent angled shots. It just narrowly found the side netting, relatively fine margins, and there could have been a goal. But it looked like it was really petering out to a 0-0 draw, and what would have been the most pointless penalty shootout of all time, because we only needed to draw in 90 minutes to win the group. We were a mere seconds away from a guaranteed home tie in the next round. And then
home comforts, can I say?
Home comforts, exactly. We were seconds away from the guarantee of home comforts, and well, we all, I presume, know what happened or have seen what happened. The corner comes in. I think Ashby-Hammond is still battling. I watched it again, and everyone said he's under no pressure, and he was under no pressure. That's not wrong, but if you look at it on the full match replay rather than just the highlights, you'll see he was kind of scuffling with their player, and then I think it's Ross gets on the inside of him, and he's still so busy battling as the ball goes in. He's flat-footed is actually what happens, and he doesn't set himself to catch it. And that's still a mistake by him, don't get me wrong, but because he's not in that zone, he's not paying attention as the ball's coming in, he then sets himself far too late, which is why he drops it. Really, really amateurish error, very bad error. Probably, without wanting to be too harsh to him, probably cost the club quite a lot of money on hotels and travel for the next game. But there we go. Seems like, nothing's going our way at the minute. I was quite surprised after the game to see that Bristol Rovers had 1.52 XG, because I'm thinking, well, where did all those chances come from? And I've realised the goal is probably like a 0.8 or a 0.9, isn't it? Just because he drops it directly to Conte on the goal line. So that's probably, at least a 0.9. It was a very comment coming up from Mark saying I'm making the game seem better than it was. That's not really my intention. It was a very bad game. It was just, I think maybe one where it was probably the least bad performance of the five losses on the road, which said a lot more about how bad the other four were, rather than, about how good that one was. But yeah, we lose. We're away in the next round after another very dull game, another pretty poor performance, and a defeat. There we have it.
I'm less worried about the cost of hotels and stuff that the club are going to spend out of Sam. It's idiots like you that go to these games that are going to bear
I think, honestly, the chances are slim that I will go. I don't think Kersey, our leader from the Banana Bus, will be able to fill a bus for that one, because it's not going to be Swindon or Cardiff or anything nearby. It's going to be we're in the other side of the draw to that. So it's going to be,
Colchester.
I think, Orient, Stevenage, Colchester or Luton, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's going to be enough demand.
Four absolutely outstanding away days in the league. Never mind.
Well, the thing is, three of which we're going to go to later in the season anyway. Sorry, two of which we're going to go to later in the season anyway. One of which we have already been to earlier this season, and one of which, admittedly, will be a new ground for a few, which is Colchester, is right on the other side of London. So I just can't see him getting. I can't see enough demand for a bus to go to that, and I'm certainly not going to get the train or stay up there or anything like that. So, yeah, I very much doubt this particular idiot will be going to that game.
Alternatively, see if you can stop anybody stopping Sam Down going to Colchester away if given the opportunity. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it.
Oh, look, if there's a seat in a car or a bus, then I'll. But I'm not going to go on like the travel club or anything like that. Travel club probably won't even run anyway, so there's that. If there's a seat in a car, I'll potentially go, but I doubt.
There we have it. If anybody has got a spare seat for Sam Down for Colchester away on some random Tuesday, Wednesday night in the middle of, let him know. He'll jump in with you. Graham, it's a shame really, because I was thinking back. Prepping for this pod, I was thinking about how we were like running out of superlatives in that promotion winning campaign, and now it feels like we're completely the opposite, and we're like running out of ways to say we are bad. But just how bad was last night?
Well, I think there was one redeeming feature, and that was, for the first time in plain sight, we played 2 banks to 4. And it's very difficult to see how successful it was, because we don't know quite how bad Bristol Rovers are, other than they're 17th in a division below. But if you look at it structurally, I thought we looked pretty effective with that setup, and I just wonder why on earth we haven't used a similar setup in previous games, because anybody who's done FA coaching will know that's how you set up to try and defend in an away performance. So the only redeeming feature, we did have some moments where 3 balls were played, but they either played too late, or Tolly was a bit over anxious to get behind the back line and got offside a number of times. It did show that Barley's form has dropped so far off that he was seemingly incapable of making simple passes that could have created chances. But as I say, one thing I was saying, I know Mitchell possibly missed the ball for when Such got sent off, but playing in the back 4, Mitchell won every ball, and Ross played behind him. We looked far more effective defensive unit with certainty, communication, And to be honest, that's all I can say about the game because there's nothing else to report.
Yeah, Adam, I know you didn't watch the game last night, and I switched it off around half time. I can't lie, but what is it about Argyle goalkeepers having nightmares in cup competitions, specifically in Bristol? Is there something in the air? Because that is a howler, isn't it?
Local accent, I imagine, puts them all off. Yeah, something along those lines. I was just going to say near the sea, but that's tricky as well because we've got that. No, there's no excuses. I mean, yeah, it's not going to come as a surprise to many who know me that I've not seen the game and do not care a jot for it. But apparently some cleverly did by putting that lineup out and making a big thing about us being top of the group, and now we're not. It's not great. As far as the goalkeeper goes, it's a horrid error, isn't it? There's no excuse for it. Even if we're trying to be kind with what's going on before, there's no excuse for dropping that at all on the limited angles I've seen of it, and yeah, predictable results. Apparently, I heard that people were actually relatively impressed with Ashby Howland's performance up until the 94th minute yesterday, and there was an argument that he could come in for Connor Hazard for a league game, if nothing else, to give him a rocket up the backside. I imagine that's quite dead now. So we'll see. Yeah, it's the last trip to Bristol we'll have at least this season, I'd suggest. So, you know, there's we could go
might get them again in the knockout stages.
Yeah,
Never know.
Yeah, of
Further
course.
down the line.
Still in the competition, aren't we? Gosh, that's fun. Yeah. Well, you never know. Next year we could easily go up and face Bristol City again, or the other option may happen, and we'll go down and face Rovers again. I know which looks more likely. So maybe we'll see it again next season with whoever's in goal for Plymouth Argyle at the time. But yeah, if we could avoid any trips to Bristol, as a very amateur goalkeeper myself, I think that would be very, very welcome.
Yeah, I glanced over the one question I had in between, which was for Finn about I don't know if you want to add anything on Such's red card. I think it was Sam and Adam in the last pod. Two of you had already had a go at him and basically said he wasn't trying, but I can't argue against that. It just looks like he just doesn't give a shit, and looks like he doesn't care, and I don't. Yeah,
I don't think it's a red. I don't think it's a. First of all, I don't think it's a red card. Second of all, I don't really care because it's the Virtue Trophy and no one cares about the Virtue Trophy. We can talk about what I do care about the result last night because it's just indicative of where we're at, though. So that's, and the fact we had 0 shots on target as well. Like, yeah, it's just completely grim. But yeah, the guy's suspended for Port Vale, I think. Is he?
No, it's competition.
Unfortunately not.
Well, as the host of this podcast would say, that's good then. So, I mean, yeah, I'm so fed up with a number of players on this team, and I don't like to say, well, these players aren't trying, but some of them really couldn't care less. And I think we're in a real dire predicament if we weren't already. It's just like, Tom cleverly can say, oh, well, the luck isn't going our way at the moment, but quite often players, when luck isn't going your way, players lose concentration. So it's not just about luck, it's actually about the number of mistakes. And yes, you can't account for all of them, but actually I think it's got to be systemic, right? There's a culture of just not owning up to stuff, not taking responsibility throughout the entire club. Hence why I'm sure we'll come on to it later, but we've appointed someone as director of football who we sacked in 2019 after giving him a 5-year contract and appointing him as head of football, and then he was sacked a mere months later. So we've basically given him the same role. I just don't think anybody has a clue what they're doing at the moment. And unfortunately, that means that mistakes are becoming more common because I think people are, one, more concerned about what their actions are going to lead to. And two, there's just a lot of players that don't care, I think.
Yeah, we'll jump onto the Derek Adams stuff. There's a couple more questions before we do that because I kind of want to get over the Bristol thing as soon as possible because it's been mentioned in the comments somewhere else. If we won last night, it would have been, oh, it's only the virtue trophy. So let's not analyse last night too much. But obviously we're coupling it in with the other 5 defeats in a row. So it has to have some discussion. But I don't know if anybody wants to take Tom Cleverley's post-match comments. Just there was a bit of discussion in the group. I didn't listen to it. So
yeah, obviously the thing that's again put him under fire is this business of the Exeter hangover. Like that was apparently the one result that's meant the next 4 are like. To be fair, I don't think he quite said that meant, that we were inevitably going to go on a bad run of form, but that was sort of the undertone. Like, I'm sorry, as a manager, you've got to be able to pick a team up from a bad result. You cannot and should not let one bad result impact the next 4. I mean, he was going on about how positive signs there were and how well we defended. And, like, to be fair, I'm not going to say there's no merit in that. I agree with Graham. I do think we defended better in that game, again, up till that howler of an error. I do think we defended in that game quite a bit better than we did in any of the previous 4. Again, how much of that was down to Rovers being bad? How much of that was down to us genuinely improving? Probably a bit of both. But, being a bit better at defending, but still offering virtually no threat going forward against a team 17th in League 2, even with the caveat of 10 men, if it is improvement, it's not much of an improvement. It's glacial pace, really, isn't it? And the fact he's going on about, he's quite proud and we're improving. It's like,
but Sam, sorry,
yeah.
it's also the wording of it, like, because it's like, oh, it's more us. Is that the levels we're at where that's more us? I mean, and he coupled in the first half of Huddersfield in that. I mean, okay, granted, we could say we had a bit more organisation in structure last night, even though every time we went over the halfway line, we had a nosebleed. What is that? Just shows to me somebody who hasn't got any clue of what an identity looks like for his team. Because how can structure and organisation be more what you want, basically more us, which translates to, in my opinion, more what you want to see out of your team? Structure and organisation should be bare minimum for Sunday League side.
Yeah, and I want to throw it back to what I said after the Exeter game, which is that I said I was not just concerned about the game, which although I was also concerned about Cleverley's comments after the game, because I feel the main problem with that Exeter game was in that derby, we were almost scared of Exeter and we gave them far too much respect and sat deep and invited them onto us. And Tom Cleverley very much said words to the effect of, the lessons we're going to learn from that Exeter game are that we need to go defence first and basically be gritty and defensive and just look at not conceding goals. So that to me, and I said as much on the post-Exeter podcast, and I said as much, privately post-Exeter, said that he took all the wrong lessons from that defeat, because the games in which we have looked half decent this season, Stockport, Blackpool, certainly Burton, even sort of the first half hour against Wigan, were the games where we were really forward-thinking, aggressive, took the game to teams. Look, this is not me here being a purist. This is not me saying, Sam only loves, Schumacher-style aggressive attacking football. I'm moaning at him unreasonably for being defensive. Trust me, I'm kind of beyond that now. I'll just take whatever the heck works at this point. And if being gritty and defensive did actually work, I would shut up about that. I genuinely would. But the fact is that it's one of those occasions where the times we genuinely have looked best are when we've been attacking and forward focused. We haven't really got many points playing gritty and defensively. The only one exception is Luton. And even then, that was kind of because we were forced to when we had 10 men. So, as I said at the time, and I take no pleasure in being proven right, he took all the wrong lessons from that Exeter game. And now 4 games on, he still doesn't seem to have learnt the lesson that we're a much better team when we're on the forward foot. And worryingly, it doesn't seem like he's going to learn that lesson anytime soon.
Shall we just move on? No. Graham, you're most probably the best person to speak about this. How are the board looking at this and just thinking everything will be fine? Thinking, we have 2 weeks till Port Vale, it'll all miraculously sort itself out.
Well, they obviously, with the statement that the so-called vote of confidence meant, even although I think Norwich sacked Liam Manning after 2 games after they gave him a vote of confidence. I don't think it was in their thoughts that they would do anything other than bring somebody in. And of course, bringing somebody in, there wasn't a long list of potential suitors. Derek Adams is well known to at least a couple of the directors, and I'm sure there was some discussions before a formal approach. And as I understand it, it happened fairly quickly, the back end of last week, confirmed on Sunday and announced. So it's been mooted for a little while. He needed help, and Derek Adams, in their view, was the one to do it. I mean, I'm totally conflicted by the decision, I'll be honest, because for me, and I think it's already been alluded to by Finn, Derek was responsible for the worst collapse of any team in the second half of the season. From mid-table position, I think we were 13th and 14th, to a relegation with players like Carey, Ramirez. We were just abysmal. He lost the fans, he lost the players. And when you reflect back over his conduct over the period, yes, he had success, he got us promoted, although the Grimsby game, we should have won the championship, we didn't. I've forgotten who he left. Was it Jake Jervis he left out? Somebody like that. It changed the team anyway, and we drew instead of winning, and we didn't win the championship. But he's under pressure, he's very prickly. Don't forget, was it a post Leyton Orient where he turned on the fans when we had the dressing room in the bottom corner between the Lyndhurst and the Devonport? The fans gave him some stick and he turned on them. He had run-ins with Chris Errington throughout the period. And yet, contradictorily, if you ever met him, he was really personable, very open, very engaging. I mean, I saw him, I think it was the Cornish branch supporters and at Tavistock, where he was absolutely fantastic. He would, he was very much the sort of man that you'd want as manager of your team. But when you reflect over his whole period, and I do recommend, some of you may remember that Nick Saunders-Smith did a really excellent analysis of Derek's tenure on Argyle Life about, I think it's 2019. And I do recommend people search that out because it's the best summary of the good, the bad, and dare I say, the ugly. So obviously
we'll tweet it after. Thank you for that reminder, Graham.
I really do think it will give. I mean, the fan base is split. I mean, 50. If you look at the Passotti poll, 50% support the appointment. I think 35% are undecided. I'm probably more undecided because it really boxes us in. But I mean, if it doesn't work with Tom Cleverley, I mean, and you can't really see. There's two very polar opposites in football, where Tom's, the St George's Park coaching culture, and Derek's old school, do it my way or the highway type. And I can't see a natural blend. And Derek is going to have to be really restrained in how he develops that relationship, because I think anybody that knows him was total control. I mean, I think, Finn, did you say he was head of football in that last season? He was in control of everything, and it was too much. And I just worry that he's going to try and, he's keen, he wants to make an impact. This is his big chance for retribution for what happened, a big chance for him to restore his career. And I just worry he's going to do too much. The relationship with Tom Cleverley might not work. We don't know where David Fox fits into the equation. And then what? Is he going to slip into the caretaker role and then morph into the manager? Or can you imagine any other league manager wanting to work with him as director of football? Seriously.
No.
I could see
And that-
see Chesterfield's current manager enjoying that.
Oh, absolutely, it'd be number one on the list. Gareth Ainsworth would be close behind, I suspect. But and so that's my worry. I fervently hope it works. There's a chance it will, but I think many people in their gut are going, sharp intake of breath. Let's hope it works. But if it doesn't, what happens then?
Whilst we got you quickly, Graham, a couple of questions come in from Scott McCarthy and Rob O'Hare. Just questioning whether Simon Hallett responded to your email.
He did, but he didn't mention anything about this. He was very, I mean, to be fair, it's quite a long commentary on what I thought of the situation. And I know him well enough for him to take what I said respectfully, and that's what he did. And he replied courteously. That's all I would say.
Okay. At least you got a response.
He does always respond. If people are, he does respond to people. I mean, it's something I'd never do. I've only done it twice when I've been really frustrated, angry, and just wanted to express my views, possibly knowing that what was on the horizon was going to happen.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, like, he does seem to respond to. We've had a few people DM us recently about emailing him. Simon, he seems to respond to everyone. So if you have a reasonable query, then ping him an email, I suppose. Where are we going from there? I don't know who is the most positive about Adam's appointment out of the three of you. It's definitely not Adam. I think it might be Sam.
Can I just say I'm not negative about it. I understand why the decision's been made, and I feel I've got no option but to support it. I'm just expressing some reservations of how it might work, and what happens if it doesn't.
For sure. I planned this pod with John in mind for some reason, so I came to him for the happy clap of you, and he's not here, so I'm going to give it to Sam.
Honestly, I think I'm actually very closely aligned with Graham on this one. I think that there is a world in which it works, at least in the short term, that he just comes in and absolutely digs people out who are not performing to the standard they should be, who, barracks people who are not doing their jobs properly, and establishes a culture where, you've got to turn up to work and you've got to absolutely put 100% in, or else you're going to get dug out. And you're not going to have a pleasant time with it. And I can see a world where that works. He's not going to be very popular. That's not his job to come in and make friends. But, if it gets us performing, I can certainly see a world where it works in the short term. But there are so many ways it can go wrong. Like, this is a man who left Home Park in a state of having quite bad, relations with the fans, the squad, and the chairman at that time. Although Simon Hallett had said in many interviews that he managed to rebuild his relationship with Derek in years after. Certainly, it was not good at that time. He left with fans giving him the sort of treatment that made the way they were towards Tom Cleverley look very nice and friendly. That day at Accrington, when they were shouting and waving their fists at him as he walked down the tunnel, with very unpleasant scenes. Left with rumours of treating the squad badly. And he's back. And not even 7 years later, he's back. And we've kind of gone full circle, haven't we? We've gone from being at the bottom of League One with Derek Adams in charge, down, up and back round again, to being at the bottom of League One with Derek Adams effectively in charge. Only with a budget about 3 or 4 times the size. So it's kind of remarkable, really, isn't it? How desperate we are. And I was hesitant about using the word desperate, but I don't think that's an unfair word to use. Because, look, that's not to say that decisions made in desperation never work, but it is a desperate Hail Mary, I think, of a decision.
Sam, I'm trying to think of like managers that go back to previous jobs, and it doesn't often work out, does it?
Aaron Ferguson.
Sorry?
Aaron Ferguson. And it has done in the past, but it's not at the moment. or it hasn't. Sorry.
I think that's a little bit of a football cliche. There are examples where it has, but I don't
Of
think.
course, there are examples where it has, but the ones where it hasn't far outweigh.
I don't even know if that's true. But what I would say, where I do think you do sort of have a point, is the examples of where it has most often worked. Oh, it's where a manager has been doing well and left, and got poached by another club, or they've just left because of a takeover or something like that, and they've then come back and done well the second time. What I agree is less likely is a scenario whereby a manager has left in the kind of disrepute Derek Adams did and came back. Now, look, I'm trying to see a world like it may be that in this age he's more suited to being a director of football, that more sort of managerial planning role than being on the training field. I think that's eminently possible. I think that his abrasive approach in the short term could be what's needed in a positive sense to come in and really shake the place up a bit. But there are so many ways it can go wrong. It could be that his rather abrasive style in, shall we say, the world's moved on a little bit in terms of HR in the time since he first came to Argyle. Maybe his rather abrasive style could cause more problems than it solves. I do also think you have to also look at the elephant in the room, which is that one, he hasn't actually been director of football before. I know I said there's a chance he could be more suited, but that's still a risk. He's still not got any experience doing that job. And the other thing is, I do think the game has got away from him a little bit in the sense that I think that his sort of very basic old-fashioned kick and rush approach that he had for a lot of the time. And yes, I know direct football is coming a bit more back into it, certainly in the Premier League. But if you look at the kind of very...
We never really pressed under Derek Adams.
No, we not really. If you look at the kind of very deep-lying, long ball, kick and rush, set-piece orientated style... Like I say, I'm not saying it's not at all coming back into play, because I agree it is, but to the level of which we relied on it at times, and to the level of which we relied on Carey being able to create something out of nothing rather than the more structured phase of build-up play, isn't really how teams play in League One anymore. And it's certainly not how they play in the higher levels. So I do think that's a worry. And that's not just me being a football purist. If you look at his results haven't exactly been great. Yes, his first spell at Morecambe was absolutely exceptional, but at Bradford, he did pretty terribly. When he went back to Ross County for a third spell, he did pretty terribly. His second and third spells at Morecambe both had relegations on the CV. Now, yes, that was more to do with the shambles that club was in off the field, but I do also think that maybe there's a possibility that his, having actually spoken to a Morecambe fan about this, maybe his very defensive style, when they took the lead in games, they just sat back on the lead in a way that was not very conducive to, keeping hold of the lead and putting the opposition under pressure. I think back to our game up there in the title season. Yes, it was great by Shuey bringing on the subs. He brought on Wayne, Mayer and Matete, who changed the game for us. But equally,
Sam Down talking about Shuey again.
No, that's just an example. But equally, Morecambe sat so deep that day, they were practically encamped by the Eric Morecambe statue. That's how deep they were. And they invited Argyle onto them time after time after time. So I do think there is a chance that he's a bit yesterday's man in style of play. And now again, I'm sort of talking around in circles here. Maybe as a director of football, that's not going to be such a problem because it will be more about building the structure. But then if we have a manager who comes in who doesn't want to play that way, how's that going to go? My overall summary, and I'll wrap up because I know I've talked a long time, is I can absolutely see a world in which it works, but I can more likely see a world whereby it gives the short-term boost, followed by it just not being very sustainable long-term. He doesn't recruit the right players, he doesn't recruit the right managers, and it all goes a bit belly up long-term. And I could also kind of see a world where it's like a Brian Clough at Leeds scenario, where he just comes in, alienates everyone, blows up in a big row, and goes after 50 days, castigating the chairman, fans, team, delete as applicable. I don't think that's likely to happen, but can anyone be honest and say they'd be surprised if that did happen and he was gone by the end of January? I wouldn't be. Because
I'll take it if the following manager leads us to a league in European football. I'll take that.
Well, yeah, maybe. But anyway, that's my 2 pence. And I can't sound wildly happy, but to end on a slightly more positive note, sometimes, a desperate Hail Mary can come good. And I can only hope this is one of those times.
Can I just give my
I was going to say, Finn, you sound like you really want to come in, so I'm gonna come to you, but just give us your thoughts, and then also answer the question of how long it's going to be until we see Derek Adams back in the Argyle dugout.
So I'm going to try and spend about 3 minutes on this because I understand that Adam hasn't spoken basically at all. So I feel like,
it's not out of the ordinary. You do what you can, Finn.
Basically, so first I'm going to get the positive out of the way. And I'm not going to be very PC about this. He's got a set of bollocks on him. And I think that's what people need. Like they right in the very, very short term, people need a rocket up their backside. The bits that concern me is what I've said previously about him previously not having a role very close to this in the head of football, basically. I mean, director of football, head of football, do what you want with that. I don't look in the ins and outs of football. I'm sure Nick Saunders-Smith could tell me probably what was different about those jobs. And that blew up very quickly. Second of all, another positive being, of course, that he really, really, really does put his teeth into the job and you can't fault his commitment. However, he has got such a divisive personality, and I think it could just go so far wrong. I mean, does anybody have any faith in this board that, given the last few appointments have been wildly different to one another, that they bring in Derek Adams because he has a good knowledge of this level and experience and knows the club, but then actually just completely just goes against the recommendation and Simon Hallett appoints another hipster manager and we're just even deeper in the hole we're already in? I mean, I can't say that that's not going to happen. And the second thing is, I know for me it's been gone ages away, but we spent 5 years and the 5-year plan doesn't exist anymore as far as I'm concerned. But we haven't had any communication to say we've actually officially strayed away from that. But in terms of the Argyle way, so we're not the same old Argyle. Okay, well, we've just gone back to. Oh, looks like Sam's dropped out. We've just gone back to a manager we sacked 5 years ago. And he went out, as Graham was saying, in very unsacrimonous circumstances. So, and I don't want to mention Stephen Schumacher again. And I believe Miran Muslic was the right appointment again, all in context. But we didn't appoint Stephen Schumacher because we felt that he basically rubbed us up the wrong way, which he did, but ego got in the way at that point. Since then, heads have rolled in then, and then we've just gone, oh no, it doesn't matter. You know what? Derek rubbed us up all the wrong way, but it doesn't matter. He loves the Argyle, isn't it? So let's get him back in. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, we don't have a strategic plan. I can only see this being good in the short term, and I'm happy to have my egg on my face in 6 months' time. But like Sam said, I don't think it's the most likely, like he said, but I can see a world where he's gone in 90 days. Absolutely, I can. I don't think he'll get on with Tom Cleverley either. Like, he'll want his own. He's a man, very principled, very sure of what he wants, regardless of whether that's right or wrong at this current stage. That's a positive about him in general, I think. But he's not a Tom Cleverley man. Like, which is, might be good because you get sacked quicker, but it just adds to the extra kind of uncertainty around his appointment. I really think it's a baffling appointment for what we need at the moment. But to be honest, I think about 4 out of the last 5 appointments have been like that. So anyway, that's my 2 pence on it. I don't like this at all, and that's got nothing to do with Derek Adams, because I think many fans have looked back and gone, actually, he did a good job at this club, and he cared a lot about and actually a lot of effort for the clubs that he worked for, and people appreciate that. But dearie me, it's quite tin pot, if I'm being honest.
Go on then, Adam. Save the best till last.
Oh, no pressure. Yeah, you're right in your initial assessment that my overall reaction to this is negative, but I do want to caveat this along the way, because this working would be really entertaining. It would give us so much joy if Derek Adams would come back, rub some people up the wrong way, and get us firing again. Because when Derek Adams is good at Plymouth Argyle, times feel great. And the 3 years where we did have a lot of success under him, the nonsense he said in the press and all of that, it was a classic example of, God, this guy seems awful in public, but when he's on your side, you love him. And we did love him for 3 years. And then it went wrong. And I just worry that for a few, the nostalgia of those 3 years has clouded the fact that it did, in fact, go very wrong. And I'm worried that that will be a case of picking it up where we left off. And I just feel the Adams era had a lot going on. A lot going on. There were some downs that's been well covered, including the Accrington one and plenty more. And lots of ups as well that live long in the memory. I think the best memory for most of us, at least in very recent years, is the Portsmouth home game with Peter Hartley's last-minute goal that came under Derek Adams. A wonderful, shining light in our history, I'd suggest, with Adams at the heart of it. All of that has gone on. It's in our past. And I honestly feel like it would be best if it stayed there. I do not think going back at this stage feels like the way to go. And that's not to say it can never work. I've got something to hang my hat on because, as Sam said, he's a very different character to what we've got at the club at the moment. And him coming in could make things totally different. And a change was needed. And things do need to be totally different. I just think we all potentially have different opinions on exactly what that change should be. Or perhaps I'm paraphrasing them. We all, in fact, agree on what that change should be. And it should be a new head coach. And it should have happened 3 weeks ago. I don't know. But I look at this appointment actually in a very similar way to the way I look at the David Fox appointment. Derek Adams has no experience as a director of football. He's someone the fans like, and he's a cheap option. And it feels like we've hired on that basis. It feels like we've gone, the board have said, do you know what? Fans are on our back, with good reason. They might not have said that bit, but fans are on our back. We need to do something to keep them on side. Oh, well, do you know what? They like Derek Adams. Let's draft him in. And that'll keep them at bay for a little while. That may work on some. It ain't going to work on others, and it's not going to work for many of us if this doesn't bring results.
I genuinely rather him. All this considered, and I agree with pretty much everything you said there, Adam. I genuinely rather him be manager now, and I wouldn't want either.
I tend to agree. Yeah, and I said at the train station all the way back from the Exeter game that I genuinely take Derek Adams as manager at this point, not necessarily because I wanted that to happen, but he'd be an upgrade on what we had. And I think he probably would, particularly for the situation we find ourselves in. And it would not surprise me if Derek Adams is gone in 90 days. And equally, it would not surprise me if Derek Adams was in the dugout within 90 days. We just don't know what he's going to bring to this position in reality.
Wouldn't entirely surprise me if he was in the dugout within 19 days, to be totally frank.
Well, also true. Would it surprise you if he was gone in 19 days as well? Or is that something that
would surprise me a little bit?
Okay,
yeah, that would
we'll give him more than 3 weeks. But we just don't know. We just don't know. We can speculate all we like about what Derek Adams is going to bring, and we have. We've spent the best part of half an hour doing it. We just don't know because he doesn't have that experience. And he's another in a long, long line of people we have hired at this football club who, in their role, do not have experience. And that's really concerning me. And I'll put it this way. If there was no Plymouth Argyle connection and we hired as our director of football a first-timer on the job who just experienced 2 relegations with Morecambe, heads would be falling off all over the place.
We're hiring because the application is basically, he loves the Argo.
It is. And
just hire all of us then. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's a similar thing. I do not think I know anybody who loves Argyle more than Sam Down loves Argyle. But the idea of him being in any management position gives me the shivers. So, there's
you say that, Adam, but they wouldn't have made half the stupid decisions they've made over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, you'd think so. You'd think so. I certainly know what would have happened in January 2025, but I think we've covered that ground already. Yeah, so
I just want to say a couple of things. Derek's father was a director of football when he was at Ross County, so he would have learnt, I think, a successful period. Yeah, I know, but it's a successful period at Ross County, and that unusual combination worked. And I just want to reply to one of the comments. You know, he's got a good eye for a player. Yes, he has. But in 3 of the seasons, 3 full seasons he was with us, he recruited 20 players. 20 players. So by the law of averages, you're going to have some success with some. Now, I did, thanks to Green on the screen, have a look at some of the names, and I was shocked at how many I had no recollection of whatsoever. And so I just want to caveat that this thought that, yes, he's got a good eye for players. Yeah, he got some great players up from Scotland, and that may be a rich seam for us to sow in the window, quite possibly, because we've under Paul Starrick, we had Scottish players who played their part. That may well work, but boy, did he recruit some duds. And I won't embarrass the players by naming them, but go on Greens on screen and have a look at the list of players he did recruit. You'll be shocked.
If you read out some of those players' names, Graham, Sam can tell you their birthday and their closest.
Right.
The
Okay.
date
Vincent Durrell. Anybody remember him?
Yeah, French keeper who came in tail end of the 15-16 season, playing
Okay.
Hartlepool home final day.
All right. Sam David Ijaha. Do you remember him?
Yeah, midfielder from White Hawks, summer 2016. Played the first 2 games of the season, then I don't think he started again.
This is going to be a repeat.
I watched him play for Dulwich Hamlet with Lionel Ainsworth a few years ago.
Good knowledge.
Simon
Graham,
Church.
1 or 2 more.
Simon Church, remember him?
Oh yeah, played in the Euros semi-finals when Wales made the semi-finals in 2016. Then, like, not even 2 years later, he couldn't get off our bench. Came in the year we came 7th in League One, and I don't think he had 1 single start.
Nadir
Shifty, yeah, that was the Turkish striker from Celtic.
Yeah. 5-star skills on
rubbish.
5-star skills on FIFA. He was. That's the only reason. I remember being about 12 and thinking, yeah, this guy's going to be great, because like that's the level that he was like playing.
He was terrible. I literally, he was on loan from Celtic, and he wasn't even getting in our squad. And I remember that was when we had a team in the SWPL. I watched him at Saltash one night, and he could barely move even then.
Stuart O'Keefe.
Oh yeah, the infamous shot at Oxford where he ballooned the ball into orbit. Lonely midfielder from Cardiff. Cardiff.
And I daren't mention Ashley Smith-Brown or Tafari Moore, but we'll just leave it there. So I just
throw in, Adam.
So I think Jeff Sterling would be really proud of you, Sam. Well done.
Thank you.
To be fair, I remembered all of those. And Simon Church was mentioned in the.
I'm surprised you didn't ask me Mark McCallum. He was an even.
Well, actually, I have got Mark McCallum listed down.
Carly Osborne.
Yeah, Carly, I've got him listed as well.
Connor Smith.
Brentford legend, Carly Osborne.
What about Wilf Mannion? Anybody?
Will Mannion, I think, yeah.
Sorry, Will Mannion. Sorry.
Yeah, lonely goalkeeper, played 1 game. That was when we had the ridiculous goalkeeper injury crisis in 2017, when he was one of the ones that came in for a 1-game loan, and it was Yeovil away in the Johnston's Paint Trophy.
Sam, what about Harry Burgoyne?
Harry Burgoyne, yes, signed and never played because he got injured in pre-season, and due to that injury, we signed Matt Macy. So yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, I think we better end this, Aaron, because
we've gone on a bit.
It'll be flashback. You can clip this up and put it on TikTok.
We could. Aaron, job for you.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Apart from Adam, I'll come to you because you've said the least. Where does this leave David Fox?
Yeah, big question. Big questions about where it leaves Fox and where it leaves Cleverley in particular. I mean, what does the head of football operations do when there's a director of football also in place? I'm sure he'll send a few faxes out and book a hotel or 2, but I'm not entirely sure that's what he was promised when he came in. It does feel as though, one way or another, there are going to be casualties from this. Either Derek Adams will leave very quickly, or other people will leave very quickly upon the hiring of Derek Adams. And I just wonder if David Fox is one of those. I mean, Adams has been brought in, supposedly, according to the statement and according to the announcement, to support Tom Cleverley and David Fox in reaching their potential to be great as a head coach and as a head of football operations. Right now, it looks as though they've got about as much potential in that as I do of being a bodybuilder. It may happen. It's, physically possible. And with the right support, who knows? But it's not realistic in any way. I'm not seeing a world where David Fox becomes this great head of football operations, whatever the role entails these days, at least not immediately. And I certainly can't see Tom Cleverley becoming the great head coach he supposedly has the potential to be, certainly by the time we need him to, because at this rate, it's relegation time, I'm afraid. So I think Fox's job is in serious jeopardy. I think Tom Cleverley's job is in serious jeopardy as well, and they should be. They should be because of what we've seen. And I will obviously just end that by saying none of this is personal. None of us want to see this happen where people are losing their jobs left, right, and centre. But Derek Adams, in my mind, has been brought in to oversee that. It wouldn't surprise me to see that with a few of them soon.
I don't know if you've seen Chris Errington's. He had an interview with Tom Cleverley, where he said he was meeting Derek. Well, would have met Derek today, but he was speculating about David Fox possibly being head of recruitment. Silence.
Who knows? Yeah,
But
he's got an eye for a player. Is he going to be the next Safari Moore?
Prove me wrong, David, please, but we are really in the doldrums if he becomes head of recruitment after this window.
And just to be fair, I know I joked about naming some of the players few had heard of, but Derek Adams did have some very significant success, and one of our greatest players in Graham Carey. He picked, was it St Mirren, Sam? Was it? He picked him from
Ross County, and then yeah,
and so he does have an eye for players, but he has an eye for a lot of players. I think that was the point I was making.
I've got a few little comments I'd like to close off with, if I may, which a few things have come to my mind during the podcast that I didn't plan to say initially, but since come to mind. During the Stoke game at the start of the year, when we drew 0-0 after the Rooney shambles ended and Mansfield and Edwards were in charge, and we had quite a defensive 0-0 draw, I said, blimey, that was like a Derek Adams performance. And I sort of said it a bit sarcastically, but positively, because although I certainly wouldn't want to see us play like that every week, it was very refreshing to see us have that deep-lying defensive mindset and do it so well after shipping goals left, right, and centre under Rooney. Literally, the end of that very year, we did in fact bring back Derek Adams. Another point is going back to when Ryan Lowe was our manager, and he had a fan forum, and a supporter asked him about what he was going to do about we were letting in too many goals, and in very self-satisfied Ryan Lowe arrogant style replied, "Would you rather have Derek Adams back then?" And well, yeah, there we go. We have got Derek Adams back. And I'm going to try and be positive. I'm going to try and live up to Aaron's billing and be the most positive about this appointment, which, given Adam, Finn, and Graham's reactions, probably isn't hard. But I'm going to try and be the most positive about this appointment and say that I actually felt that comment was very harsh by Ryan Lowe at the time. And we know that Ryan Lowe likes to blow his own trumpet, but I feel that comment was very harsh because although the football wasn't always the best, and this is coming to people I've spoken to within the club, within football and outside of football, what Derek Adams did is he built the structure around that club. And whilst he maybe seemed to be, maybe a bit of a dinosaur in the way he plays at times, it wasn't always bad football. That with Carey and Lemieux either side of Taylor was lovely to watch at times.
It was my favourite ever season as a fan.
Yeah,
that's including the 101 club as well.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that, but fair enough. And that first season with Jervis, Carey and Wild behind Reed in the 4-2-3-1, that was very nice at times. And where he absolutely categorically was not a dinosaur in any way is the importance of a modern structure. Because when he came in, John Sheridan, yes, he had that Aussie bloke as the sort of motivational, John Harbin, that's his name, as the kind of almost like a psychologist. That was basically all we had.
Wasn't John Harvin from New Zealand? That's really offensive.
I think he was Australian. I could be wrong. But anyway, we didn't have much in the way of a structure of field. Derek Adams really brought a lot more use out of all the various departments. He brought in a designated fitness coach, really got a lot more use out of the analytics, the recruitment side of it. He built a structure. He built a clear chain of command, whereas John Sheridan was very much of the old school. You've got your manager, you've got your assistant manager, and you've got your trainer. And maybe if you're lucky, you might have somebody in to work on performance, and John Harvin was the only one. Derek Adams used the analyst a lot more. He used the head of recruitment a lot better. He built a cohesive scouting structure of the club. He brought in the designated fitness coaches. He built the club into a modern entity, and he was very professional. He was always first in, last out. I know that also could apply to Tom Cleverley, but with Derek Adams, he got it to work. He put his absolute heart and life and soul into the club. And the reason I'm making a point of mentioning this, the thoughts come to me, the fact that his main legacy actually wasn't what he did in the pitch, because as much as it was amazing for 3 years, the fourth year was so bad, it pretty much took us back where we started. So his main legacy was that he built a club structure. And then Ryan Lowe came in and improved on that. And Ryan Lowe and Stephen Schumacher, to add to the club structure Derek Adams built, they built a club style of play.
Which, by the way, ironically, we have just gone, like, it looks like we've gone completely.
Which we have now gone back on. Yeah, but anyway, that's kind of by the by. The kind of positive note I'm ending on is that implementing that style of play wouldn't have been as easy if Derek Adams hadn't built the club structure. So maybe, just maybe, we'll end on that glimmer of hope. The fact that he is that club building guy, maybe this role plays to his strengths more than being a head coach would be. And maybe that's something we can be positive about. And maybe we'll see him in the dugout in 3 weeks' time, and that'll all be irrelevant, what I've just said. But who knows? Anyway, that's me.
I'm just going to say, I agree a lot with Sam. It has the potential to work if he can restrain himself from getting involved. But it's just that relationship with Tom Cleverley. I've just checked. Didn't he have Craig Brewster as assistant manager?
That was one of his many fallings out, I believe. Craig Brewster,
yeah,
and at the end of the 7th place season.
Yeah. So I'm just saying it. You know, it's all about relationships. He's great around the club. He knew everybody, a bit like Wayne Rooney knowing the name of the tea lady. He definitely did. So he would know everybody, and he was very inclusive that way. But well, let's be honest. Argyle's never dull, is it? Let's be fair.
Just two questions before we go. But before we do that, according to PAFC.co.uk, an article that was posted in 2013, Sam, about John Harvin's appointment, he was actually born in Yorkshire. So there you go.
Oh, my apologies. Well, he certainly didn't have an accent from Yorkshire.
he has Australian nationality. So
there we go.
Yeah, and was very good friends with Ian Dowie, so that's nice for him.
He was a very nice guy, to be fair.
I still love John on Facebook. I still have John Harvin on Facebook. You know, back in the day, he's just got him and Wes Fodringham for some reason.
New Norwich manager Wes Fodringham, do you mean?
No, League One Wes.
Oh, that's Mark Fodringham. Yeah, that's an error for me. Sorry. Yeah.
Right, two questions before we go. We said we wanted an hour. You got a minute and 10 seconds. Adam, where was Joe Rules yesterday? Another signing injured and 2 months' wages wasted. I don't think he's injured. They're trying to just bed him in, right? But it feels like yesterday was a game that you could have given him 10, 15 in, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't care. Yeah, it's he's one of the guys I think who. And I've said a lot more about this on the site. If we bought him in over the summer and gave him time to bed in, I think he'd be seen as a good signing. And if we are able to bed him in over this time, we'll see. Yeah, I'm not particularly bothered he didn't play in the Pizza Cup, and maybe we'll see him at Port Vale. And yeah, hopefully we do. If he is injured, that's obviously very sad. But will we? Will we really?
Because, well, as in, if he's there, we will, because we are going via Leeds for the Football Content Awards. Last question, because it is, we've overlotted our time. Finn, Mike Blackmore says, can we finally find out where Derek Adams keeps his egg? Where are you going? You going fridge or cupboard?
Oh, I reckon he's a cupboard man.
He's a cupboard man, isn't he?
Yeah, good old-fashioned cupboard man.
None of this woke fridge egg nonsense. I doubt. Anyway, I think that's it. I think we've covered everything that everybody would ever want to talk about, the Virtue Trophy and Derek Adams. I don't think there's anything else. But remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and all your major podcast platforms. And hopefully I'll actually get this one up for the commute tomorrow morning. So if you need to listen back, you can do that. Yeah, great comment here from Colby, who just says Scotch eggs. That's what he would be eating. Anyway, love you, bye.